All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Yes, I Can Living. I'm your host, Kathy Alessandra, also known as the Yes, I Can Coach, and I help you transform your life while revolutionizing your business. Now, in this podcast, I interview amazing women who are doing incredible things, who've started businesses, who have faced challenges, who have had great success, and today is no different. I'm very excited to introduce you today, Corry Matthews. She is a champion health coach with over 20 years experience. She is retired IFBB pro athlete. She leverages her background in education in sports medicine, exercise, physiology, and 10 plus certifications in nutrition and exercise science to create winning strategies for her clients. Yes, she does. Corry is the CEFO of Strength and Grace Fitness and Promotions. She is co-promoter of 3 different bodybuilding shows in Virginia. And she is co-creator of the So You Want to Compete program, which is an educational program for new bodybuilding competitors. Also, she promotes a new event here in the Palos Verdes area of Los Angeles called See Beyond the Hill, a women's empowerment event that I had the honor of speaking at recently. Such a fabulous event, Corry. Thank you for joining us. Excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit first off, why and how did you start your business?
Well, I started it back in 2006. So that was when I actually started the business, but I have been doing personal training is where I started. I started with nutrition. I tell the story of having just a really good high school teacher. I think this is why I think it's so important, to give back locally in our community to our high schools. And his name is Mr. Gigliotti, and he loved everything about the body. And he really started my love of physiology, and that if you treat the body right, if you proper nutrition, exercise, work it out, that it then will result in really great, amazing results for you. And so from there, it was just, I'd always been a dancer. And so when I went into school, I first went to school and I was like, where's the anatomy classes? Where's the physiology classes? And they said, you're in the wrong degree. Like, you need to switch majors. So I started off in biology and really quickly switched over to exercise physiology because I just loved everything about the human body. And I think it's just a remarkable piece of work and all the things that it can do, and how if you treat it right, then you can thrive. And if you basically abuse it and don't treat it right, then you're going to be in chronic pain and miserable. And so from there, I just really wanted to help people. What started with doing personal training, from there it was, well, they're missing half they're missing half of the equation. And so let's add the nutrition component. And from there it was, own a nutrition store and really start growing the health coaching aspect of it. And it was just a tool. People came to lose weight, but I realized they need the exercise, they need the nutrition component, but they really need someone to help them kind of walk through this together and figure out where they're going to go. And so it was officially Strength and Grace, officially incorporated in 2006. And from there, over the years, it has helped everyone from, Marines that have fallen out of Humvees to female Marines that, were having babies, active duty Marines having babies, and them saying, we need to get them back combat ready, to working with competitors and, really now settling into working with women and their hormones and realizing what a battle it is. And I think it was my own experience with hormones and just, coming from when you're in your 20s and 30s and you hit 40 and everything changes, and just realizing that, life can be really good if we do the right things for our body. It was a place that I knew I needed to focus on.
Awesome. Well, wait till you hit your 50s, girl. And then, and you mentioned this. So you've started this, the Hormone Solution, which is weight loss and working with hormones. And I'm actually working with you now on that and excited to be doing that. But tell us a little bit about that. And as you've gone through, we all face challenges as we're growing a business, and you've got a few different things you've listed here. What have been some of your most difficult challenges in starting this business and taking these new pieces into it? And how did you overcome that?
Well, I think, looking back at it, one of the things that I did is for 13 years, I owned a brick and mortar store, actually 2 of them. And I think from anyone that's ever owned a brick and mortar, you understand just what goes into that with the overhead. I was lucky. I really, back in 2005, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure many people have read that. My husband and I said, let's open a business. And I really wanted to open up a gym, but I'm grateful that I think God had other plans and said, nope, I think you should open a nutrition store, because I went with a much smaller, footprint. But those stores never succeeded. So they never, running that brick and mortar store, having employees, I mean, they always were just right at break even. So they never were flourishing. And I think part was as I was selling supplements. It wasn't the coaching, I kind of kept as a side business. And so the coaching did really well, but the coaching actually was what was funding those nutrition stores to go. And so they opened right around the same time where everything went online. So, I mean, I think anyone right now on their, you can use both hands and list off 10 different nutrition companies that are online and doing direct sales. So those stores opened in 2007. And I will say we put all of our savings into them, and for years and years and years, and still to this day, it's sad. We closed the stores luckily in December of 2019. We were able to close the doors, and we even had to at that point negotiate with a landlord to, what if we give you this much money, because we still had 4 years left on our lease. We had to negotiate with a franchisor because we still had 4 years left on the franchise agreement. But it was really taxing. And at that point, I had to keep reminding myself that, I wasn't a failure. The business may have failed, but I wasn't a failure. And so luckily, anywhere you look, you can see that, it's like, I don't even know what the statistic was in terms of how many businesses fail and how many businesses fail at 1 year and 5 years and 10 years. And
huge number, huge percentage.
Yeah. So I felt like I was in good company, but it has taken me, and I still think there's days where I still feel like, they were such a failure in terms of just where they went. But when I look back at it, I've chosen to look at, because of them came my bodybuilding shows. And I love the bodybuilding shows. I love the events. And up until this last year, I thought that events were out of the question here in California, because it was just the bodybuilding market here in California is completely tapped. It's completely saturated. But it was really, pivoting and doing something different and opening up new doors to create an event. So there's definitely been my share of ups and downs throughout the years. But, the biggest thing I've just realized is that if I've tried to think, if one door closes, and, let's look for the open window or something else that we can go through to make it happen.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great lesson. Is there any other key lesson walking out of, many have closed their businesses during COVID, or they've closed their doors, even their brick and mortar store, right? They've taken it online or whatever, or maybe they've had to walk away completely. Is there any one particular thing that maybe you walked away with that felt you'll be inspirational to others, a lesson that you took? I'm always about, it's not about failure. It's about taking the lesson and moving forward with it. What's that next thing you can do? What's the lesson you're learning from the thing that's not working, right? So what would that be? What might that be for you?
I think it was just, the lesson is probably just is realizing all the really good things. So ultimately the business failed and we closed the doors, but the relationships that I developed over time, those relationships are still the ones that are building the bodybuilding shows with me. Out of that, I found my business partner and we have built Strength and Grace to what it is today. And so it was those connections. And it's just, using that experience to fuel me as going forward in terms of what I do. And I think it's the biggest lesson is and I've learned this from Kathy in terms of saying no. It really helped me realize, what do I want to say no to? Because I sometimes feel like that second store was kind of like, we felt like that was the only option and we really needed to open up the second store. And I really regretted it. And I really felt like at that point, because we had investors and I wanted to be true by them. And I felt like I couldn't say no. And I think that was the hardest thing. Is so now it's really interesting. And even my business partner with the CB on the Hill event, when we've done things, she says, no is a complete answer and it's a complete sentence. No, you get a yes or a no and you move forward. And so I think if anything, that has probably been my biggest lesson, is that it's okay to say no. And it's okay to put my foot down and say, I'm tapped out. I can't do that. It's too much.
I love that. I love it. Well, I'm all about that. Strategic yeses and abundant no's.
Yep.
Yeah, for those of us who are no challenge or have been no challenge. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the hormone solution. Tell us a little bit more about that. And I would love to get, for our listeners, maybe one quick tip you could give us, or a key thing that you could give us as far as, what to look. Many of us want to lose 5 pounds up to 50 pounds or more, right? Is there one key tip that you could give us today that might help us get on our way? Help us get on our way. I know there's a gazillion, right? It's not one thing, but
it's like the $1 million question. Well, the hormone solution was really designed in the fact that when women hit 35 and 40, when our hormones all start changing, all the way through the moment perimenopause starts, all the way through menopause, is that the most common thing everyone says is everything that I used to do, all the exercise, all the nutrition I used to do to lose weight, it doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, well, that's because your hormones are different. Before, your hormones were different, and now they've completely changed. And so too many programs out there are just like, just do this, give up all the sugar, give up all the carbs, give up. And it wasn't an educational component, or it made it really hard. And I find, women that they need this program, it's like they're being told, no, they can't do this, or no, they can't do that, or the body is broken. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give up everything at one time. Mm-hmm. And so we really strategically work with, how do we give up something for 3 days? How do we give something else up for 3 days? And when you start doing that and realizing how much better you feel, mm-hmm. then you can figure out, like, maybe you don't have to give everything up. Because when, somebody really enjoys a great cup of wine, glass of wine, and if we can figure out that that's not the trigger point, that's not the issue, mm-hmm. it's something else, and we can give that back to the client, it makes such a huge difference. And so I wish, I would say the biggest takeaways is that, really drop the processed foods. You've got to drop the processed foods. It's got to have foods as they were intended to be made, is the biggest key. Because when we start looking at it, at the, overarching level, it's, you've got to give up grains and you've got to give up sugar. If you don't have a perfectly regular cycle, and you're having a period every 28 days, your hormones are a mess, whether you're 20 years old or you are 45. And so really, if you give up sugar and if you give up processed grains, that is going to make such a huge difference. And I always tell people, go to our website. There's over 100 recipes. The recipes are free. You can find out how to make chicken nuggets or pizza or even brownies that are sugar-free and grain-free.
And those brownies are to die for. Let me tell you, I've made them for the family a few times. Most definitely. It's interesting too. I many people know I lost a lot of weight, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So I would have been late 40s when that happened, and it was much easier. Right. And now at 56, it's much more of a struggle, and clearly my body is not wanting to let go of stuff. And I think women sometimes forget that they think, or we think that it's, it should be just as easy as before. And maybe it's not some of these other things. And I think your program really, really helps to bring women, in tune with that. Right. Yeah. So for sure. Okay. So tell me, how do you define success?
I guess I would define success as basically living your dreams, being able to live a rewarding life of being what you want to do. Like for me, being successful means that I can take off Saturday and Sunday and go spend the day on the soccer fields with my girls and actually see them grow up and be a part of that. It's, I don't have to have the best house or, best cars or anything, but to be comfortable and not be worried about money or stressed out about money. That to me, when I can live my life and not feel like I have to be completely worried all the time, means that, I'm living a successful life. Yes, there's big dreams that I have that I want to go for, and I'm constantly reaching for those. Mm-hmm. But I would say right now, with where I'm at, I feel really good about where I'm at. In terms of my business with success, is I have seen firsthand just how the tips that I'm teaching women and the habits that I help them form can dramatically change their life. So I was just recently thinking about this, and I feel like that I'm just not doing, I'm doing a disjustice to the women by not letting them know about this and teaching them the ways to really do that. So I think for my business and success is I really want to grow to the part of being able to reach more women, because I just feel like it breaks my heart when I talk to women and they're just so frustrated because they're not doing what they want to do because they're 20 pounds overweight, and they're letting that weight really stop them from whatever it may be, experiencing time with their kids, or they're too afraid to I mean, too many women that I work with are too afraid to get out in the front light with social media these days to talk about their business because they don't want anyone to see them, because they're embarrassed about how they look. And they have amazing, remarkable businesses. And I tell them, I don't think anyone's going to care what you look like, but to them, it's a crutch that they're holding on to. And so I want to grow my business big enough so that I can reach them and connect with them to really help.
Yeah, I love that. What inspires you? Is there something that you read or do each day or each week that inspires you to keep on doing that?
I love Mel Robbins.
Mhm.
I found her a few years ago, and I love the way she talks to people. Her brand new book that came out, The High Five Habit. I recommend it to a lot of my clients because so many of my clients, for most people, if you're trying to lose weight, there's self-image issues. And she talks about it's as simple as taking your hand up and giving yourself a high five in the mirror. But I like her a lot for just what she does for women, for empowering women, for making women get out there. And the quote that I use the most to tell my clients comes from her is that exercise and weight loss is simple. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it. And that every exercise or nutrition program that you do will work. The key is you just have to do it.
Right. Just do it.
Yep.
Who coined that phrase?
Yes, and I am a huge Nike girl. So I love Nike. I about cried one day when they said that I didn't have the feet for Nike shoes because Nike shoes they don't create much stability in the ankles. So I can't wear them for
Yeah.
I need more stability. So I was pretty sad when I could no longer wear all my Nike shoes. So
Oh, that's cute. So let me ask you this. If you could tell your younger self now, give that younger self a tip or an idea or a suggestion, what would you tell your younger self now that you know now, you've learned it through all your hard work and efforts and everything? What would you want that younger self to know?
it's interesting that you asked me this question because I am actually telling my 12-year-old daughter this exact same stuff right now, is that try not to read into everything that everybody says. So if somebody says something, if you ask them a question and they give you an answer, take that answer for exact point value. Don't read into it. And I think that's become the problem with text messaging and emails these days is you always assume. And I think I always assume too much. I assume that, somebody says something to me, what if they don't like me? Did I make a big mistake? Did I do something wrong? Instead of just truly being myself. And if somebody doesn't like me, that's okay. That's not on me. That's on them. And so that's what I've been telling my 12-year-old. And it's so funny because she's my mini me. She's so much like me in terms of her personality and the things that she's going through. And so I just have to tell her, I'm like, be you. And she wants everyone to like her, and just if they don't like you, that's okay. That's on them. There's something inside of them that for whatever reason doesn't like you. It has nothing to do with you. And so just be true to yourself, be you. And if you think somebody means something other than what they said, ask them. Just ask them instead of assuming. Just ask, hey, I think I thought you said this, did you mean that? And 9 times out of 10 they're probably going to come back and say, no, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, no, I love that. You know what? You're practically quoting from the Four Agreements. I'm sure you're familiar with that book by Don Miguel Ruiz, right? And that first one, it's, don't take things personally, never make assumptions, be impeccable with your words, actually, and always do your best. But those are two of the key of the agreements, right? Not taking things personally and don't make assumptions. Ask. I love that, Corry. Yeah. And the fact that you're,
yeah, it took me 43 years to finally read that book. I had so many people say something about it. So I finally decided to read it on vacation this July. And it's really interesting because I love Audible. And sometimes like Audible will just speak to my heart. And it's just so interesting. And that one was in July. And I will never forget the road I was walking down listening to don't take things too personal. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like my whole life.
Yeah, right. I know it can be life-changing when we look at some of those things. Awesome. So what's next for you for Strength and Grace Fitness? What's next? What's next for you?
Well, we're really working on revamping our program to get it out there to more people. So we're changing some of the pricing structure, some of the way that it's done. We've got a bunch of advertising and promotional stuff that's coming out in the new year. So done some really cool interviews. We're going to be doing some writing, some articles for local magazines, maybe one that Kathy knows real well.
That's right. That's awesome.
So just really
Fantastic.
getting the information out there. We're definitely going to do another CB on the Hill event. So that's coming next year. And then the bodybuilding shows are still on in Virginia, and we're going to make probably a big change in one of them. That's going to be an exciting twist. It's going to be a little bit more work, but we're excited for it.
That's fun. Look into the new year. Looking into 2022. So if somebody wanted to connect with you, where would they go to do that?
So best way is you can go to strengthandgracefitness.com, or I always tell people, if you're on Instagram, go find me. It's just Corry Matthews. As long as you can spell my name right, you can find me. So it's 2 R's and 2 T's. But there's all kinds of free information in there. I put in inspirational quotes. I put in lots of recipes. And if you send me a direct message, I will respond right back to you.
I love that. All right. Well, my final question I ask everybody is, what makes you a yes, I can woman?
That I will pretty much say, as I hit my 40s, I will pretty much say yes to anything that I find that's going to take a little extra courage and challenge me. But I know that it's where I need to be for my goals, my dreams.
Yeah. Oh, I love that for sure. You are a yes, I can woman. I am honored to know you and thrilled to be working with you. And yes, she will be contributing some articles to the Yes, I Can Living website magazine. So be sure to click over there. You can connect with her there on her Instagram or her website, Strength and Grace Fitness. But yeah, look forward to those articles for the coming months here. So Corry, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, stay tuned. We will have another episode of Yes, I Can Living very soon. So be sure to check us out on iTunes, subscribe so that you get the notifications when the next episode comes out. You can also watch them on our YouTube channel or even on our website, Yes, I Can Living. You'll also want to subscribe to get the weekly email newsletter where we highlight all the articles that have come out and each of the podcasts each week. Until then, I hope you have a great day. I hope you live your yes, and I wish you the best. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Let me